Hey guys, and welcome back to Rice
Unwashed!
Woo! My name's Mikey.
I'm Jay Wang.
I'm Dennis. Welcome back, everyone.
Welcome back.
So guys, we've got a bit of a special one today. It's something that also means a lot to us, and we've actually mentioned it briefly in our first episode. Today we want to talk a bit about, the environment to create a safe space for us to share with each other, more towards men's mental health.
I just want to jump in that we've been receiving a lot of positive feedback from the boys. Just hearing the comments saying that it feels like the boys, when you guys listen to us, it feels like we're together, and that means so much from us. We're getting so many comments saying how welcoming, how comfortable. And
feels like they're in the chat.
Yeah, we're in the chat. Physically. And that was what we were aiming for as well.
We want you guys to be involved as much as we are in this chat as well. So.
Yes.
Just one big boys' night. We want everyone to be there.
Exactly.
As much as we love to talk about the funny things, the lighter subjects as well, when we initially had this meeting to create this podcast, one of the actual biggest directions that we wanted to go towards was being able to talk about some more difficult topics.
Correct.
That a lot of the boys that aren't able to do actually bring out to light, yeah?
Correct.
And that's what this is the first one, part one, right?
Yeah, part one, yeah.
So welcome.
So we'll probably try to be pretty vulnerable with this one as well.
Yeah.
And we hopefully you guys can relate with us and can be vulnerable with us as well.
And take something out of it, hopefully, as well.
Yeah.
So we want to create that trust with you guys. So we're going to show you our vulnerable sides as well. A lot of our experiences, what helped us as well, what we've been through, so that that there's someone there listening, or there's someone who's been through something similar to you guys too.
Yeah.
So let's get into it, shall we?
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Okay. What's the topic today, boys? Let's put that line out first. Make sure it's clear.
Feel like it's more of a mental health kind of topic, I reckon, with this one, with us guys, us men out there.
Just being able to open up and feel safe to do so. I think a lot of us as men, on how we're brought up, or maybe traditions, our upbringing has made us hard to share our emotions or be aware of these emotions.
So I guess we're to kind of summarize that, we are talking about the difficulties of why.
Yeah.
Why is it so difficult for males, or anyone really in general, to bring out their emotions or understand them or express them, or just say, I need help.
Yep.
I'm in a bit of trouble, I need help. I'm having some difficulties. Why is that so difficult? I guess that's where our big focus, our introduction is going to be there.
Yep.
And then later on, we'll start focusing on some more specific things. But this episode, we really want to heavily focus on the reason why.
Yeah.
What's causing that?
Yeah. So why is it? Why do you guys think it is?
Yeah, maybe because we're men, guys, you know what I mean? So I feel like it's different, it's hard to express. Well, with a lot of guys, it's hard to express with other guys.
Yeah.
Correct? Yeah, that's how I feel sometimes as well.
I think there's a big perception around male having to be a dominant or a strong figure, and by showing vulnerability, it's a sign of weakness. And so if we were to express emotions or, be a way that is not used to the societal norm, it might be frowned upon. Yeah.
So there's vulnerabilities, obviously the image, the stigmas that have been made. That's making it hard for us to come out that way.
Yeah.
Hence why, I guess, in a way, we're rejecting that part of ourselves too. Hence a lack of acknowledgement, right?
Yep. And I think a lot of it is to do with our upbringing too. The way we're raised. Obviously we're from an Asian background, and so a lot of it is what our parents taught us. Right. And maybe, can look into what is it that our parents taught us, right? What was it like for you guys?
To be honest, I never really have a dad figure as much. Yeah, because my mom, my parents, split up when I was young, and my dad, he's the type that didn't really look after me. You know what I mean? I think I learned a lot more from my stepdad or my cousin or like my uncles a lot more. I think they're more of my role models than my actual real dad. So so I feel like for me growing up, like I had to be a bit more independent, right? So you kind of want to ask for me, because like I feel like if I'm asking like my cousin, because like they were a lot older and they're looking after me, or my family at the time, like I feel like it's just a burden. You know what I mean? So that's why I feel like I always had to like do everything on my own.
So you just have to pretty much figure it out all yourself.
Yeah.
And be, I guess, in some way very independent, if not hyper independent.
Yeah, 100%, man. Like when I was young, because I think I was telling from the previous podcast, like I was catching a bus, 12, 13 years old.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I remember 15 getting my license, 16 getting my license, but I still had to like catch a train, go get my own insurance, do rego, everything all by my own. I still remember I had to do all that all myself because I didn't want to rely on anything from my family. Yeah, like just because like and that like sorry, probably track back a bit because my mum already moved to Brisbane as well, so I was living with my family in Adelaide. So everything I did at the time, like sure I was living with my family, but there's a lot of things that I had to do things on my own. Yeah, and that's why I think I kind of try not grow up faster, but I think I mature a lot quicker just to understand as well.
Do you think at any point you somehow or someone made you feel bad about relying on them?
Not sure. I think it's maybe just personality more than and they didn't make me feel bad, but I felt bad.
So I guess in a way, it was a situation you were put in. You were in a sink or swim type situation.
Yeah.
Where you either had to do this by yourself because you didn't have anyone to depend on.
Yeah.
And that kind of, in a way, puts you down that pathway where you just thought, I have to do everything by myself. It wasn't just those little things. You then made that your lifestyle. You became a lone wolf by yourself.
Yeah. It was nice to have friends and family all around you, but it's sometimes being young, have to do everything as well. Like you just have to like mentally grow up faster or do things or like learn things. You know what I mean? Because I always said like I'm always street smart than book smart. That's why everything I did when I was a kid, I was just out there running around, able to do all this by myself. At a young age, figuring everything out, catching a bus, catching a train, like all that,
That's interesting. I think maybe, I'm not sure if this might even relate, but do you think maybe your mum was a bit of a role model? Whether you mentioned she moved to Brisbane on her own, maybe there was part of that. Maybe she was your role model in order to, if she's doing things on her own, you've learned to do things on your own too. I don't know if there's any element of that.
I don't know. Yeah, that's a tough one. I'm not too sure because growing up, like, of course, I look up to my cousin. He's like the man of the house a lot. Like he looked after me.
An older brother too, right?
Yeah, a bit older brother as well. But yeah, other than that, like, I think, it's a bit hard. I don't feel like I looked up to anyone else besides that. You know what I mean? And and I just knowing and with my personality too, I just don't want to burden anyone when you're doing things like that. So but and of course like that kind of stuff too, you cannot express with anyone else. You know what I mean? Because especially when you're young, you know what I mean? Like who the fuck who am I gonna talk to about this? You know what I mean? And my cousin's always busy as well for his own life, right? Like it's hard to express that kind of feeling or how you feel when you're young. You know what I mean? Because just even just remembering like going to school. Parent teachers. The parents was never there. My cousin have to do it for me. And like graduation, parents not there. My cousin's always there. Like what I mean? Like that kind of little things. Just kind of like wow. Like just sometimes it's just like it's just a bit not upsetting, but a bit down. Like didn't have that kind of support. So I think for me, when I was like growing up, I was like, I don't want my kids to be like that as well. Like, that's like my dream goal is like to not be like my dad. You know what I mean? And to actually, be a better role model for my kids.
100%. That's really interesting because I think. Sorry, I don't mean to
go.
I think there is an element of, I think when you're at your youngest age or your youngest self, there is an element of having to rely on emotional support, but because you didn't receive that, you just had to either bottle up or manage it all yourself. And it's actually really, really tough. I do have a bit of like a psychology background, but they say during your adolescent ages, it's the most crucial time in order to have support and be able to express emotions. And if you don't have that, you end up either shutting down or you end up, acting out in certain behaviors that might not be, great. So, but it seems like you've managed really well in order to learn how to manage those emotions pretty much.
Yeah, like of course, like the older I got, the more understood about myself, and the more have really good friends around that I could talk to as well. Like that's probably the biggest thing, really, to blessed enough to find really amazing friends.
Yeah.
And able to express myself. You know what I mean? Yeah. That's one.
Yeah.
I think every time something like that happens, like at the parent-teacher thing, when someone's absent or whatever, you slowly keep making walls and shells to protect yourself from being upset. You know what I mean? And each time that wall creates, like another layer happens, instead of finding that tendency to actually rely on other people, you just become more and more independent.
Yeah.
And the fact that you can break through out of that, because similar situation for me, my father was not a very fatherly like figure. And he was always like, his shifts were always work related, so I never really got to see him at home. No one really taught me how to shave. No one really taught me how to tie a tie. Those little things that you say, right?
Same, yeah. 100%.
Because of that, you start creating an image of a male yourself. You have to create what a father-like figure could be. And it either goes two ways. You either accidentally become the same person, which is apparently the more common thing to do.
Oh man,
it's a vicious cycle, right?
Yeah, it's scary because my mom sometimes said to me like, "Oh, you become more like your dad."
Exactly.
Fuck, like, you know what I mean? Like that's like the
man.
biggest insult. Like I was
really
like,
is.
yeah,
That's
I was
another
like,
episode,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I was like,
Generational
when she said that, I'm just
trauma.
sitting there like
man.
angry. Like,
Yeah, I
why?
understand that,
Like,
right?
because my mentality is to not be like.
You're trying the best you can to
Yeah.
not be, but obviously there's going to be some instances where they will see that image of you, but still, it's not there. It shouldn't be said. It's either that, which is that vicious cycle, or you start making your own image of it, which can be either the opposite of that, or you start taking stimulus from somewhere else, someone else's father, or maybe a figure you see on social media or something like that. So the fact that you can come out of that and start depending on people, like you said, it's amazing.
It's crazy. It's good. Yeah.
Yeah.
How about you, John? Anything in the cultural aspect of it? Obviously, every culture has their stigmas.
Yep.
Whether it be Caucasian, Asian, anyone.
Yep.
But I think for us, obviously, we bond over the fact that we are all Australian-born Asian.
Yep.
And there's got to be something there that I feel like is a very big factor
Yep.
to the reason why we cannot express the emotions we feel, or maybe just ignore them.
Yep.
And I definitely feel like that's something that we can touch on now.
Yeah, 100%. I guess my background's a bit different. I think, again, there is similarities in terms of culture-wise, coming from Asian parents. Like my parents, bit of a backstory, but, they weren't happy being in China at the time, and they had to do whatever they can in order to escape from, again, the tough times.
Yeah.
And so, if that meant getting onto a boat or like scrambling everything, I actually had a conversation with mum recently where she actually had to let go of her architect degree, getting all the paperwork, and let's just hop on a boat and just go. Because it wasn't a good time during that time, right? And so they moved, and then eventually fled to Australia. But a lot of that trauma then passes on, and when they came here, they didn't know English, they didn't know, anything. They just had to find a way to survive. But a lot of the times when I was raised, it was about how their upbringing was, and how we have it too good. And so a lot of the conversations were about
old days.
Yeah, in my days, I didn't have this, I didn't have that. You should feel lucky, and
We are.
rightfully, yeah.
They say it all
We
the
are very
time.
lucky.
Yeah, they always say it all the time.
But there are also certain traits where they've almost instilled in me to believe a certain way, right? And so, one of the big things is, as a male, like when I'm upset or when I'm crying when I was a kid, they would be like, "Why are you crying? Like, what's crying going to help you?"
How's
My
that?
dad will say, "Ham me ham," which means like, pretty much, "Why the fuck are you crying?"
just direct translation.
Yeah, and that's in a way to pretty much be like, "Hey, don't feel what you feel." Right? Like as a kid, you don't know. You just express how you feel at the time. But if you were told not to do that, and essentially it's just telling me to suppress my feelings and my emotions. And so that's all I knew. And a lot of it was really suppressed. And it was funny because mum would always be like, hey, you got to stop bottling things up. Well, where do you think that comes from, right?
It's the cues of the fuck me.
Yeah, so one person telling me, you know,
Suppress.
stop doing this, stop crying, be a man, you know, as a man you shouldn't be crying because you should be doing things, you should, you know, we don't feel these emotions. Yeah. On the other end, oh, don't bottle things up, you know, it's not good for you. I'm like, oh, what do you guys want, you know?
Yeah, very confusing, isn't it? Especially when you're still developing a mind.
Yeah. But, you know, a bit more of a backstory for me is that when I was young, I think I might have previously mentioned this, but I moved to China for 3 years. Doing boarding school there with my sister. And so our parents stayed in Australia to work. And so every weekend we would just go back to our grandparents. And then Sunday afternoon, go straight back to boarding school for the whole week. And a lot of that time, I was about 5 to 8 years old, you know, which is crucial time for childhood development, you know, to bond with your parents. But they weren't there. So a lot of time, I didn't have that emotional support, just like you. And so a lot of times I just had to figure out how to manage my own emotions. But quite often as a kid, you don't know how to, right? You don't know who to turn to. You know, you're in a country that you've never lived in. You know, you might have relatives, but you're not close with them, so you don't know how to rely on them. And so there's also a lack of trust. Yeah. And so if you don't have anyone else, you either turn to yourself, but also you might shut down. And shutting down as in like you just bottle everything up and just suppress all emotion. Yeah. You know, and so I grew up kind of not being aware of what my emotions were or how to deal with them. It was just more like, oh, I feel this way? Well, no, I don't have anyone to rely on. Let's sweep it on the rug.
Sweep it on the rug mentality.
Yeah. I'm sure that's really common, right? Like,
very common.
Yeah.
You ignore it to the point that it becomes a subconscious part of you.
That's right. But having that time away obviously made it really tough. And, you know, my sister also has her ways of dealing with it. But for me, my natural instinct was just to shut down and just hide to myself. Yeah. And that's why in my first episode I said I'm reserved because that's where it came from, right? Yeah.
It becomes a part of you. So. You know, obviously there were good parts and bad parts of it, but still, the fact that it was so strong that it became a personality trait.
Yeah,
that's something. That's deep.
Because if you also take that amount of time and you only turn to yourself and you pretty much suppress everything, it becomes a habit, and so it's also really hard to change. And taking that time to be more open about it has been a lot of work. Yeah. What about you, Dennis?
Well, in Korea, there's a saying, if we directly translate it, is that a man can only cry 3 times in his life. When you're born, when your parents die, and when you lose your nation. And when we say that, we mean like a patriotic thing. Because obviously it was a war term made in the olden days. So you can see how far down that word came from. It was times of war.
Yep.
Nowhere near where we live now, but we are still taught that.
Yep.
It's really powerful to a kid putting a number restriction on a kid. You have 3 strikes. You know, they'll say something. You're not allowed to do this, 2 times or 3 times, or you're allowed to eat a sweet 2 times in the day. Kids will listen to that because numbers are powerful to kids because we don't have a limiter. So by giving them forcefully a limiter, it can be helpful in certain times, but it also can block something off the whole way. The fact that a lot of, like I said, it might be every culture, but I can't represent other cultures, but a lot of the Asian cultures, restricting males to be a certain way is huge. And how smart is it to put a number on it? You know what I mean? So even though you want to feel a certain way, you know, I want to cry about something, etc., you get this little voice that comes back and just tells you, you've only got 3 chances. You want to use that now? You want to use that? And you just, once again, suppress it. Ignore it. You kind of start thinking, oh, this isn't worth crying about, when it should be something worth crying about or even just talking about. And I think it's very similar to what you said. The fact that by doing that, every emotional response that comes about, you start thinking in that way instead. You undermine everything.
Yeah.
By undermining it, we ignore it. And that becomes an issue because maybe that was something that was a life point changing moment in time, or, you know, in your life. So you should have addressed it. By not addressing it then, it can become a personality trait, or you can shape your childhood and whatnot. And I understand, going back to the whole immigration era. When they came, I understand it was a tough time, and we are really grateful that they went through that time. But shouldn't all that hard work have been so that we could have been raised a little bit differently?
Yep.
Do you get me? It wasn't just like a lot of the times where me and my mum would have had a little bit of conflict or argument where she's like, I worked this hard and I made you a dentist. You're financially stable, you've got a good job, and you've got you got the title of a doctor. Thank you. I do. I really do appreciate it, because my life is easier because of that. But was that the goal when you brought us here? Was that the definition of a better life? I don't think that is a better quality of life. If, for example, I'm in a certain field and I hate it, and it was just their ideal form or way of doing it, just because they couldn't chase that dream, should it have been forced upon us? You get what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah,
So I think maybe we just are a bit of a softer generation. Maybe we are. Maybe we're in a situation where we can be a bit more peaceful and soft. But I guess our quality of life definition is just a little bit different from the eras back then. Yeah. And I think because now times are better, I think this is why maybe males are starting to come out a little bit more. Start talking about it.
Yeah, there's a lot. Are you okay?
Yeah. Are you okay?
It's now is like it's more aware that the Are You Okay Day for men as well, because it's a mental health that for so long finally men are getting recognized.
Yep.
That we have emotions.
Yeah, we have emotions. Yeah.
We're also human.
We're also human.
We're also human. Yeah. So I think the thing that I've seen the most is with men is probably pride and ego. Because too many guys out there, a lot of pride, like I think they're tough, tough guy, all the time. Or like not even that, sometimes you ask, it's try to ask them a question, but they're always like, brush it off, I think it's okay, but.
How common is it when you ask a mate or, your dad or just some sort of male figure and they're like, I'm fine.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah. So they're not fine. But, you're asking just to, try to help them open up a bit more, and you're just like, no, I'm good.
Yeah, I'm good. No.
They've got like a wound that's like flying out.
Yeah.
I'm good. It's just a flesh wound.
Yeah.
Just here to talk, bro.
Yeah, I had a friend as well, out of a relationship, you know what I mean? And then, or just ask him like, how you feeling? And then he's like, "Oops." I'm feeling better. I feel. I'm like, shut the fuck up, man. Because I know that, especially after a relationship or something, I was fucking hurt, crying, this and that. Just tell the truth, how you feeling. Just talk it out. Yeah, just be real. So yeah.
But there's an element of that they just don't know how to say it, right? Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. There's a lot of guys out there that wasn't blessed or know how to express their feelings. And for me, I felt I was quite blessed to able to express quite easily. And just able to share with everyone as well. And just to be honest, at them, they're if I cry, I cry, right? And I think I said this to the boys before, I'd rather cry in front of my boys than in front of random strangers or to girls. You know what I mean? Because I feel the most safe space is with the boys. I'm able to cry with the boys.
Yep.
Yeah. So, and then it happened last time when came out of a relationship. You know what I mean? And yeah, sure, I broke up with her, but yeah, I still felt very just sad, right? I felt hurt, and then I just remember I just messaged the boys. All the boys met up, and I just came in and just started bawling my eyes out. And they're like, oh shit, and they always just gave me a hug, it's just because I felt better, I felt better just to get it all out. Yeah. Like yourself.
I think a lot of the pride and ego comes from the fact that we perceive those emotions as weakness.
Yeah.
Makes you vulnerable, weak. It's a flaw. These associated words, I think, is the reason why we see it as that. And why is that? Why do we perceive those things as weakness? And I think going in a row, I think a lot of the fact is that because we associate it as feminine.
Yeah. Because only females cry, only females
are
feel.
allowed to cry, feel. They're the only ones who are allowed to nag. They're the only ones who are allowed to say something.
Yeah.
But besides that, do you get me? Why do we keep thinking it's a weakness when it's not?
It's not.
I think the strongest people are the ones who can come out with how weak they're feeling right now.
Yeah.
I think there's also a misconception with maybe the influence of social media, you know, having the need to be alpha male, you know, to be this.
What is the alpha male? Let's define what because you know right now the alpha and the sigma male is the two, you know, images of a wanted guy, you know.
Sigma, it's a Gen Z term, isn't it?
It's a Gen Z term.
Yeah.
You can do alpha and then I'll explain.
But I don't know what the sigma is. So
I'll explain sigma. You guys do
we're not
alpha.
Gen
I've
Z.
briefly heard about it.
Yeah.
I think alpha male, I mean, Mikey joined in on this, but like, I feel like alpha male is just that macho man that, you know, just, you know, your typical football player that
The
needs
jock.
to, the jock, you know, that needs to be dominant, that needs to be in charge, in control, and just really like has the space in the room, you know?
Yeah, it's basically the leader.
Yep.
Like, yeah.
You know, he's seen as the strongest man. He's seen as, you know, the king kind of thing, the leader of the group, but there's no sign of weakness, and that's I think. I mean, you think that's kind of
I agree exactly. They show no sign of weakness. They like, I have no weakness.
Yeah.
Like, shut the fuck up.
Weakness is and part of that weakness is associating with not crying or not, you know, expressing emotions. Because they're just always like, oh yeah, I'm a tough dude.
It's the general, you know. You never see the general crying in his room, going like, oh, I'm so hurt.
Yeah.
You know, and I guess like you said, a lot of that comes from the images that are made from that. The sigma is really a really good example is Oppa Jinu from Solo Leveling. He's not the loudest guy in the room. He's kind of like in the corner, but you know, he's got the presence.
He's a silent achiever.
Yeah, he's just there. Hey, step bro, you know, like he's just that guy in the corner who's probably the most powerful dude, but just won't even say anything. Like this guy doesn't even express joy.
Yeah.
So it's the cool dude.
The
for
cool,
people
quiet
that don't know who Jinwoo is.
Yeah, the cool, quiet bad boy in the corner sipping on his whiskey by himself. You know, not the guy who's in front of the table like, everyone drink. That would be the alpha male.
Yeah.
But this is that cool guy with the hair, you know, just flowing. So those two guys, and that comes from social media, right? But before we touch on social media, the whole concept of alpha, sigma, all this is actually very primal.
Yes.
It takes us back to how we describe packs of animals. You know, wolves, the alpha wolf, the alpha lion.
King of the jungle.
The king of the jungle. And, you know, obviously the difference between us and animals is that we feel things.
We've evolved.
We've evolved. We
have a conscience, you know, we have self-awareness. I think our mind is much more developed in that sense of understanding what we are and who we are.
The cognitive processes that go in our minds is very different from animals.
Yeah.
They feel sadness, pain, everything as well. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying we've gone one step ahead. But the fact that we're still relating back to those, you know, titles or statuses, we should move on. Like, guys, move on.
Yeah.
You know, the alpha male, the sigma, like, let's move on. You know, we are human. We're all human.
Yeah.
And, but you know, from that, we then go into social media. What is the negative influence of social media on men's health?
We mean so? Like,
So, like, how has social media influenced us in this way?
I think a lot of the content is around how men is like olden days. You know, a lot of it is portrayed like, and if you look at all the, you know, biggest influencers, they're all very strong built, very well spoken, very kind of leader of the pack feel. Yeah.
yeah. Oh, especially what was it? It was G. What's the kids? What's the term now? Like, you could be a G or something. Like, yeah,
Gen Z
no,
term?
like Andrew Tate. Like,
yeah.
What do they call him? Like I don't know, like
Top G.
yeah, top G.
Top G.
Where
Another
the G there? Top G or something.
Yeah.
So I think that's like, you know, and Dan Brazilian. You know what I mean? Like, because
Joe
all the
Rogan, you know, they're all like
manly man. Yeah.
So a lot of them, you know, there's not enough social media that touches on this aspect of males. And I guess that's why we're doing it.
Yeah.
You know, like everyone's focused on like, you got to get up at 6 a.m. ice baths, you know, have egg whites for like breakfast and all this kind of stuff. But they don't ever focus on
they make money,
make money,
get
nice
bitches,
car, get bitches.
Like,
that's all they focus on. When you know, a lot of the time, yes, that is a great lifestyle, whatever, if you can maintain it.
Yeah.
But look, there's gonna be days when you're feeling shit.
Absolutely, yeah.
There's gonna be times when your family pulls something on you, or your girlfriend pulls something on you.
You have your own personal issues, your own challenges in life.
Yeah.
Like, it's not always going to be sunniness.
Yeah.
Ice bath at
Sunshine and
6 a.m.
rainbows. Yeah, exactly.
And to be honest, like those guys do go through a mental challenge as well, but it's not shown, right? So they're probably doing it in the background. Yeah,
But that's the toxic part of it.
yeah. I mean,
If you're gonna try to influence people in a way to have that lifestyle, they need to show that that's the good days. Or
Yeah.
that could be the routine.
yeah,
But you've got to explain that there are bad days and how do we get out of that? Or why do we go through these? Do you get me? Because by showing only that aspect of it, the more and more we want to only to suppress that other part of us again.
Yep.
You know, when we're finally starting to creep out, now we're getting all these influences showing all that toxic masculinity. You know, we kind of made some progress and now we've gone back a little bit.
Yeah. I think all of this is like just showing how hard it is to be vulnerable, right? Yeah. And so, you know, what is vulnerability? Like how do we, or why is it that we can't show vulnerability?
To define vulnerability is like feeling exposed. You know, like someone is going to use something against me, right?
yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's how, you know, the alpha males feel, right?
Feel when these types of talks come up or these emotions go.
Yeah.
What are some examples of situations that could make us feel vulnerable or for personally?
Dating,
Huh?
Dating?
Yeah, dating,
judgment.
Yeah.
judgment, yeah, or even like body, like like
Dysmorphia.
yeah.
Also your own self, like
Your
your
own
image of self.
Your image of self.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Self-confidence, self-worth,
Yeah. Self-esteem.
self-esteem. Yep.
Sometimes even family. You know, the
Yeah,
closest
family.
people can sometimes cause vulnerabilities.
Yep.
Because people who are distant, you don't care. So you don't feel vulnerable in front of them. But the closer they are, you kind of feel more vulnerable. The more you reason to hide things sometimes. Any personal experiences of yourselves that has made you kind of go through a vulnerable patch?
I think, you know, in terms of making me feel unable to feel vulnerable.
Yes.
You know, sometimes I think like bullying
Oh.
can also make you feel that way.
Yeah, that's some like long
You know,
term.
because you might open up to a group of people, you know, whether friends or family,
Yeah.
and then they look down on you or like they judge you for something that you did, and so naturally that trust gets broken, and so you won't be able to feel the need to open up again
The trust is
because
gone.
you know 'cause it could be some event, it could be multiple series of events that makes you unable to trust because of that. Yeah,
It
that's
can
probably
be. Sorry, yeah.
no. That's one.
It could be the smallest things, like
Yeah.
you know, when we were younger. Like for example, sometimes our food would be different. You know, like obviously, I moved to the Gold Coast when there wasn't the Asian community was not that strong. So I remember going back home and complaining. Like it was delicious food that I would eat at home, no issues. But I would never want to go and take it to school. Do you know what I mean? It should be proud food that I'm proud of, but the fact that I got bullied or that somebody told me it smells or tastes foul, you know,
Yeah.
I would fight against my own family to say, don't give me this food.
So it's like a form of discrimination, right?
Yeah, discrimination. Like there's racism, discrimination, any sort of that kind of stuff. Or body image, as we were talking about. You know, I was very obese when I was younger. This is one of the reasons why I got driven into where I am now. You know, I would never be able to look at myself the same or never have that confidence with myself. Like I wouldn't take a t-shirt off ever. You know, very different from now, but now any chance like that.
Very different.
Yeah, very different.
But I would be that guy who's always in the longest rash guard, like never go to the outside of the beach, never take my shirt off. Even times when I had got into a form where I should be confident, still wasn't. That went for years, like I'm talking 15 plus years. I could never be vulnerable, or I can never be vulnerable with my own body image. So like, yeah, that's a big one. Bullying's a big one.
Yeah. Going off that, I think I can relate, not for me, but, you know, I saw my sister, she was a bit chubbier when
Yeah,
she was
yeah.
younger. But at the same time, you know, I think a lot of judgment and discrimination from not just parents, but like relatives, like family
Relative-
around.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, you should eat this. You should you're gonna exercise more. You know, you shouldn't look this way. Like it's just things that would make you feel
So tiny.
yeah.
Yeah,
so tight, yeah.
nah, it's the worst one's like more harsh. Where it's like, why you so fat? Like, yeah, man, you're not gonna find husband and wife. You know,
Oh, that's a big
Nah,
one.
it's always gonna be like that.
That's such
Yeah.
a big one. Asians
so
relatives,
hard.
They are.
Yeah, they're the true bullies.
They've learned where, like, I don't know how, but they have an art to this. They're out of war.
There's a dictionary of
it's
insults
so
on how to
bad.
make your child
Feel
not be able to.
this
Yeah.
this thing.
Yeah. What about in terms of even like achievements, right? Like, oh, you can't do this, you know. Your cousin does better than you. He got A. Why'd you get C?
Comparison game.
The comparison game. Like,
They love the comparison game.
all of that would make you feel so little and, you know, not be able to be vulnerable anymore.
And that's why we continue to compare ourselves to like
Yeah.
social, you know, media and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it wasn't even just the negative emotions. If we're talking about like, you know, how the achievements and stuff like that, the number of times, even up to like last year on my like the week before comp, the number of times my family would be like, "Why are you doing this? What's the point?" And I'm at bottom already at that point. You know, I'm starved. I'm like tired, sleep deprived, and everything. Hearing those words from my meant to be biggest supporters, can really just shut you down. You start questioning purpose of yourself as well.
Lack of support, right?
Lack of support. And that might not just be family. Sometimes your partners too, right? Like, have you guys ever been in a situation where you've like tried to do something or open up and you've been ridiculed or shamed? Yeah, right?
Absolutely.
They don't think they're doing any harm. But,
Words matter.
words matter.
Yeah,
Words matter.
words matter.
Communication,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Oh, man. It's
Yeah.
just like all these memories like coming back now, flooding through.
Yep.
And for anyone who's listening, like, well done, boys.
Yeah.
Anyone who's like lasted this long and has not shut down, like, well done. Like, round of applause to all the boys out there.
Yeah.
We need to express ourselves.
I think so.
It's
Absolutely.
toxic.
Yeah.
Who you find you're able to express, like now? Let's say even now, like who do you find is easier to express with, or who do you usually go to express? Like, do you guys have anyone like particularly?
Not myself? No.
Yeah, I mean, I think for the longest time it was myself.
Yeah.
But that lack of second opinion is so dangerous. Because you only think what you want to think.
Yeah.
Right?
You can only think outside in your own perception.
Are any of you like really like overthinkers? Because I
Hell
Yeah.
yeah.
right.
Absolutely. Yeah.
There'll be times where overthinkers spiral. And when you start spiraling, you never get out, right? And that's why I'm very, very grateful to Mishi. Because she's kind of like on the clouds. She likes to think things very simply. Whereas I'm like, if I see something, I will analyze that thing down to like a centimeter, millimeter, micrometer type thing, right?
Yeah.
So whenever I start like spiraling, I'm like, nah, I shouldn't be doing this. You know, like I should be focusing on this and blah, blah. She'd be like, you know, that taco ad, ¿por qué los dos? You know, like, why not both? You know, she's like, but why not both? I'm like, huh, so simple.
Sure. Why not?
Yeah, why not? Yeah. So, you know, having someone like that once you get a taste of support like that, I think you do slowly start to crawl yourself out of that hole of being in your own man cave for so long and going, oh, there's light outside.
Yeah.
I think it is maybe hard for some people to, you know, we're very fortunate we have, you know, each other and our group of friends and boys, but I think some people may not have that. So it is very tough to be able to find someone if you don't have a big circle of friends, or even sometimes you just don't know how to open up to anyone close. Right. So
maybe a big reason why we can't open up is because the lack of support system around.
lack of support system, sometimes even lack of self-awareness.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty blessed to have been both able to express to my boys and express to my mum.
That's a big one.
Yeah, because like some of my friends know that I'm very close to my mum, so I'm able to just chat whenever with her all the time.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then the other thing is like mum knows best. Like I always can say mum knows best, man. Like because like she they just know. Like sometimes just hanging out with her and then straight away she's like
Just a little radar.
yeah, she'll be like, "What's wrong?" I'm like, "What are you on about?" And then she's like, "Yeah, you know what I mean?"
Fine.
Yeah, I'm fine. Yeah. I'm okay.
Fine.
Yeah, and she just like breaks you down, and I'm like, "What the fuck? Like, how you know?" Like, it's like something's wrong, and she's like, "Oh, I can feel it." You know, or even like, so I think I finally like started dating that time, and she's like, I'm just driving. I picked her up, and she was like, "You have a girlfriend, don't you?" I'm like, "What the fuck?" Like, how you know? Like, how you know this thing? She's like,
She just saw the condom.
yeah, you can tell like that. You look way too happy. I'm like,
A bit of a glow around.
Yeah. Like a pregnancy glow.
But yeah, I'm pretty blessed on that side, is able to just talk to mum with anything.
Yep.
And I do encourage, friends or like,
start
people
it.
out there, legit, like if you can just chat with your parents, man, because like your parents know you quite well. And I get it with people with, it's the language barrier sometimes with the Asian kids that can't express.
Yeah.
But trust me, once you're able to chat with your parents, it just makes life a bit easier.
Yeah.
You go.
It's funny. I just was gonna say, we probably hated to admit that when we were young.
Oh,
that
man.
they know us best, and we know better.
You
know?
think you know me?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
No, you don't.
yeah.
I'm my own man.
Yeah.
Yeah, and to be honest, it takes time. Like I think I've spoken to a lot of people, a lot of friends, and they said that like people are not that close to their parents, or they don't know how to. Like to be honest, it's just like just chipping the ice away. You know what I mean? You just gotta make the effort. You know what I mean? You just gotta keep making. And bro, like I don't know if you guys into Chinese zodiac, because I'm a monkey and my mum's a tiger. So man, we always clash. Man, we are always headbutting. We're always arguing. But because the more older I got, the more self-aware that I became, and like understanding myself as well, and understanding her, because I started to understand her a lot. Because when me and mum hang out, she will share me some stories about like the divorce and like how my dad treated her and this is that. I'm like, man, like, and then of course, like when you're young, you never get to see that side of your parents, right? And then just hearing all these stories, I'm like, fuck, I'm just crying for her. You know what I mean? Or like this and that. So yeah, I think that's the thing. You just gotta chip away, understand your parents, because and that's when the more I understood her, the more we like got real close as well.
That concludes part 1 of this topic, where we talked about the reasons why. And for any of the people who are listening, if they related to any of the reasons that we talked about, or any of the factors or experiences that we talked about, please tune into next week, where we'll go into part 2, which is going to be about some solutions, personal experiences that helped us get out of those trenches, and have made us a little bit more dependent, a little bit more expressive about emotions. Thanks for listening, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching.
Hope you enjoyed
Rice.
it. I'm washed.
Yeah.